A blessed day to all. This chapter discusses the changing pattern of community structure through time. The following topics are to be discussed. This video is divided into three parts.
Chapter 18.8 Systematic changes in community structure are a result of allogenic environmental change at a variety of timescales. Purely abiotic environmental allogenic change can produce patterns of succession over timescales ranging from days to millennia or longer. Impacts of environmental fluctuations relative to time. Environmental fluctuations that occur repetitively during an organism's lifetime are unlikely to influence patterns of succession among species with that general lifespan. For example, annual fluctuations in temperature and precipitation influence the relative growth response of different species in a forest or grassland community, but they have little influence on the general patterns of secondary succession. Environmental fluctuations that occur at periods as long as or longer than the organism's lifespan are likely to result in successional shifts in species dominance. For example, seasonal changes in temperature, photoperiod, and light intensity produce a well-known succession of dominant phytoplankton in freshwater lakes that is repeated with very little variation each year. Over a much longer timescale of decades to centuries, patterns of sediment decomposition have a major influence on the successional dynamics of coastal and freshwater communities. Ponds and small lakes act as a settling basin for inputs of sediment from the surrounding watershed. The picture shows a generous diagram of lake or pond succession in which the lake gradually fills with sediments, organic and inorganic, shrinking the area as time progresses. The area progresses with a marshy wetland to a meadow as the process reaches its final stage. Allogenic changes in the environment can directly influence patterns of both succession and zonation at a local, regional, and even global scales. Chapter 18.9 Community Structure Changes over Geologic Time. Since its inception some 4.6 billion years ago, Earth has changed profoundly. Land masses emerged and broke into continents, mountains formed and erode, seas rose and fell, and ice sheets advanced to cover large expanses of the northern and southern hemisphere and then retreated. Many species of plants and animals evolved, disappeared, and were replaced by others. Paleoecology is the study of distribution and abundance of ancient organisms and their relationship to the environment. The Pleistocene, approximately 2.6 million to 11,700 before present, was an epoch of great climatic fluctuations throughout the world. Some 20 glacial cycles occurred during which ice sheets advanced and retreated. Continental shifts and geological changes influenced climate and environmental conditions and affected animals and plants.
18.10 The concept of community revisited. There are two contrasting views of the community. The first view is the organismal concept by Frederick Clements. He viewed the community as a quasi-organism and that it is made up of interdependent species. It is also a spatial concept wherein a variety of plant and animal species interacting and influencing the overall structure of the forest. The second view is the individualistic or continuum concept by Henry A. Gleason. He viewed the community as an arbitrary concept and stated that each species respond independently to the underlying features of the environment. It is a population concept wherein it focuses on the response of the component species to the underlying features of the environment. However, researchers tell that reality lies somewhere in the middle, and our viewpoints are often colored by our perspective. Ecological issues and applications. Community dynamics in eastern North America over the past 2 centuries are a result of changing patterns of land use. Oldfield communities are a common sight in the eastern portion of the United States. These fields represent the early stages in the process of secondary succession, a process that began with the abandonment of agricultural lands and that will eventually lead to forests. Moreover, American Indians in the 17th century historically used fire to clear areas for planting crops or to create habitat for game species. However, their impact on the landscape was minor compared to what was to come as a result of the westward expansion of European colonization. The clearing of forests was driven by the need for agricultural lands and forest products, and as the population of the colonists grew and expanded westward, so did the clearing of land. Since the year 1972 alone, more than 4,500 square miles of farmland in the eastern United States has been abandoned and is currently reverting to forests. The result of these trends is a regional scale pattern of secondary succession in the eastern United States that has seen a shift from agricultural lands to old field communities and the eventual reestablishment of forests. The future dynamics of the landscapes of eastern North America will certainly depend on the changing patterns of land use and the growing demand for land for the urban development.
This is the end of Chapter 18. Thank you for watching. A discussion on Chapter 19, Landscape Dynamics, will be linked in the description box.